Abraham, Sara, Jackson, Zach, Moriah, Maddy, Hannah.
First person voted out of Survivor 46. Jelinsky, that's 3, that's enough. Need to bring me a torch.
8 contestants are technically first eliminations in the current 6 seasons of Modern Survivor, and you may wonder how I got 8, and well, Eric and Sara are basically both first boots in Survivor 41, and I didn't know who to exclude out of the ejected bloke or Cory's brother, so I'll be taking my criteria of gameplay replicability and dividing it up amongst these first boots to see who had the most potential to go far and potentially even snag the crown, which, believe it or not, it's hard to do with contestants that only lasted 1 round. At the bottom of this list we have the previously mentioned Jackson Fox. I know certain YouTubers rank on potential and could salvage Jackson from 8th place. However, he ultimately only told production about being on lithium after the alternates left, leaving them no choice but to let him compete, and then only for him to be pulled after 1 day because of a sudden withdrawal of lithium in the body and how it can be fatal. Taking this into consideration, Jackson would never win a simulation of Survivor 42, but even if we were to look past that, his game is still really subpar. Supposedly Jackson was on the bottom of his tribe due to sketching people out by being too aggressively open when searching for the idol. I mean, maybe Jackson's physical strength allows Moriah to be targeted over him, however I am still clutching at straws to see how he survives first boot trajectory, let alone make the merge. On a similar note, at 7th is Hannah Rose, the first boot of Survivor 45. Kind of similar. Similar to Jackson, Hannah's elimination was shrouded in controversy. Hannah by day 3 quit the game because she missed her vape, specifically the nicotine, and clearly underestimated the conditions on the island. The poor girl has gotten enough awful messages online after the Survivor 45 debut, so I don't want to fan the flames of hate too much, but considering I'm ranking a list based on how far the individuals could go, a woman who said she would pull herself if not eliminated after the first tribal council is, yeah, I'll pass. That being said, the one thing I do have to point out about Hannah, which puts her above Jackson, is that she seemed to be pretty good socially. She had a strong bond with Brandon highlighted, a working relationship with Emily, and Emily would have been the first boot of the season if she stuck around. That being said, the season is called Survivor, with the survival aspect and the lack of resources being a fundamental aspect of the overall challenge of the show. Now finally onto the people actually eliminated from the game, and the first of which is Survivor 41's Eric Abraham. In all fairness, I could see the point for Eric being higher, as there are definitely first boots higher than him on this list that have more noticeable flaws, but at least they have higher highs. Eric is an incredible dude. He's been nothing but an amazing guy in chats to me, but if there's something you need to know about me, I'm an absolute prick. So I'll do my darndest to objectively rank people. Honestly, at the outset, Abraham seemed to be an outlier on his tribe, accentuated through a relatively weak social game. Ultimately had a noticeable dependency on Xander plus Voce to help him, but never managed to improve his own positioning. To give him his credit, he did correctly warn the guys that the girls would team up, something that they eventually do, but he was also a bit too gun-ho on targeting Tiffany right off the bat. Next up at number 5 we have the infamous Zach Wurtenberger. And Zach, I don't know if you're watching this video or not, but if you are, just know you are a complete nightmare to rank. Zach started off Survivor 42 well, forming bonds with several Survivor contestants such as Cory, who originally was going to be on Survivor 41 with him, but most importantly Romeo. That being said, after the first challenge, Zach took personal responsibility for the loss in the puzzle, sparking one of Cory's dozen snarky responses, and also made him the established easy boot. While this all sounds really bad, and yes it is, there are 2 main positives that save Zach. Firstly, he formed a surprisingly strong skinny guys alliance with Romeo, which almost saved him. Additionally, he did have enough intuition to realise he was eventually getting the votes at tribal council, so he played a shot in the dark. So while there are glimpses of a deep run with potential in Zach, if you're asking me to rank a man in the top half who got outplayed socially by Tori Meehan of all people, then that's another story. Similar to Zach, Sara was the first boot of her tribe due to dropping the ball in a challenge, or, well, an entire bag of puzzle pieces. Sure, Sara failed in the challenge and this allowed Brad to pitch her as the first boot more easily. However, I feel Sara played the first few days a bit too passively, and seemingly by her own admission was a bit too dependent on Shan and Karud to help her at the beginning of the game. That being said, the Ur tribe was quite frankly a train wreck, with JD constantly blowing up the dynamics, and I feel she was the closest out of anyone discussed thus far to actually get the vote flipped onto their opposition, in this case Brad. I feel she did well to capitalise on Brad's blunder by alienating Shan plus her, but she was ultimately seen as the easy vote out due to her lack of challenge strength. Also, for what it's worth, she's only one of the 2 contestants on this list to not be a unanimous boot, 3 if you also count Hannah, so that's a positive in her favour also. Taking bronze on this list is perhaps the most perplexing first boot in Moriah. Survivor 43 had an edit that very much favoured the final 7 of the season, by giving them lots of screen time, and the very first episode of the season is not too dissimilar. As a result, we barely got any Moriah screen time, so ascertaining a placement was initially tough, but I landed on 3rd. In Mariah's defence, she was dealt a pretty tough hand, as the tribe wanted to target Gabler before he obtained an idol, and threatened to use his shot in the dark, forcing the tribe to pick a safe boot. Similar to Abraham, Moriah attempted to stick with gender lines. However, Moriah I feel was a bit more outgoing and connecting with the women compared to Abraham with the men, and her pitch to protect the women from being early boots in this season almost worked. With Mike essentially being immune and Sammy being considered the most physical on the tribe, Mariah's only option was to target Owen, but unfortunately for her, Ellie had already thrown out her name in a move that would ironically shoot her to the bottom of the tribe following this tribal council. While Moriah was definitely unfortunate, I do feel she struggled to have a true number 1 on this tribe, with everyone seeming to have a closer bond with someone else over her. Additionally, from the small amount of screen time we did get, she seemed to come off as rather transactional in her conversations with the men, particularly Sammy. They're missing out on the top spot by only 1 place, because at number 2, rather bizarrely, I have David Jelinsky. Now, if you told me before this video Jelinsky would be in legitimate conversation for the top spot, I would have laughed you out of my little Northern Irish room, but looking at this season, especially with what we know now, Jelinsky's game isn't too bad for a first boot. The first thing that sets Jelinsky apart from all the other contestants we discussed thus far is he was legitimately part of the majority alliance for a good chunk of the game. Sure, other people we've discussed had struck deals with a majority of individuals, or who had people targeted over them, but Jelinsky was situated in a 4-person alliance with Kenzie, Tiffany and Q. Additionally, Jelinsky states in Exit Press the decision to quit Sweat vs Savvy was first brought up by Q. Originally this claim stated in Exit Press was dismissed, but considering Q went on several episodes of the pre-merge and even the merge tribal council saying he was considering quitting, I can definitely see it. Moreover, Jelinsky screwed up again in the Journey dilemma when he initially lied to Maria and Tevin, but then conceded, creating a worst of both worlds outcome. That being said, Jelinsky drew the card that forced him to lie to his peers, and as even stated by Adam Klein, it was a situation he was never winning. Either he was getting an extra vote while pissing off 2 tribes, or losing his vote to appease 2 other tribes. In either case, both scenarios would lead to the disapproval from his original tribe members. As much of a meme as Jelinsky is, you can kind of tell his Yanu tribe almost immediately regretted voting him out, which is rare for an individual with the prestige of a first boot. Plus, when he wasn't getting clowned on by the edit, I actually thought he was playing decently, which is a markup from the others we discussed thus far. That being said, the first of the first boots by, honestly, quite a wide margin, is easily Maddy Pomilla. She is the only first boot to be idled out of the game, meaning she had a majority of the votes on her side, picked the wrong person, and was eliminated with literally 1 vote. Because that's modern Survivor for you. If I was to throw some criticism at Maddy, putting the votes onto literally the one guy you know who has the idol is extremely questionable gameplay, but in her defense she didn't have much of a choice. Matthew played a shot in the dark, Lauren abstained her vote, and the intended quote-unquote keep the tribe strong vote was Jamie, who was safe through the shot in the dark play, which for some reason the edit dunked on her by saying she was apparently paranoid. Maddy also had strong connections with everyone. The 3 women wanted to stay strong to stop the recent trend of women going home pre-merge. Keen and Maddy were extremely close. Maddy and Matthew were also very friendly, to the point Matthew burned his vote on the shot in the dark so he didn't have to publicly let Brandon know he was aligned with Maddy. Even Brandon had a close bond with Maddy, until he destroyed that relationship by trying to hide his birdcage key. I'm not saying Maddy wins Survivor 44 if she survives this round, but I also wouldn't be surprised if in an alternate timeline she does, because she seemed very solid in all 3 facets of the game. But did I get this list right, or should the orders be swapped? Let me know down in the comments below. Peace!